Hello, world!
Hello.
uh, Excited to be here once again, man.
Yeah, yeah, likewise. I feel a tiny bit guilty for our topic title this week. I feel a little bit like, the biggest mistakes. I feel A, it's a little negative. B, it's a little bit of a trap. So you can look at these as there's also good advice here. That we're going to talk about some of the positives and negatives, I think, right?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And something we can, I guess, compensate next time. We can do, uh, you know, the successes. What are the things you have to do or that might help you to be successful? So we're not as negative as today's topic. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that when we decided on the topic, I was like, people might get mad on our opinion, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Like that's perfect.
Well, that actually is a great first point. I've seen some companies where dissenting opinions or, people that weren't happy with certain stuff, they wouldn't ever spread bad news. You weren't allowed to present bad news in certain companies. And that can actually that's a real detriment. I don't believe in going the other way where all you do is give bad news. That's not useful. I think you can be supportive, positive, upbeat, but provide constructive criticism and you can disagree. And that's one of the things I've learned talking with you. You know how to disagree with a person without making them feel bad.
Well, I'm not sure about that, to honest sometimes, but uh,
That's
yeah,
on them. That's their problem, not yours.
yeah, true, true. But I think we can like do a zoom out and maybe start on first. Let's start with what means not being successful, right? Because
Yeah,
I think you told me that, like, what does it mean to be successful, right?
yeah. Because I mean, for different people, there's different visions of success. And as you know, and I know, being an entrepreneur has to be its own reward. You really have to be in it for the journey. Yes, we're goal-oriented people. We do want to achieve certain things. We set goals and we want to achieve them, but you really have to be in it for it. So I think one of the mistakes is to say, look, I'm in it to achieve fame and glory or money or whatever. And I think the only way you can get through being an entrepreneur and to be successful is to enjoy the act of being an entrepreneur and the stress it brings, but the freedom it gives. So for me, that's how I've defined success. And that's how I've seen other people who are successful by any metric. Usually they're people who are recognized, they've done well financially, but they're people who love what they do. They're just passionate about being an entrepreneur, and they don't let the little ups and downs hit them. What are your thoughts?
No. Absolutely. I guess it's a problem with social media in general that typically now success. The only way you can define success is if your startup becomes a unicorn and you make millions or billions, and for sure it can be, it's a valid goal for some people, but not necessarily has to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be just users, or it can be just the disruption of the industry, not necessarily making money. And I do feel that if you're really successful in terms of, like, your product is really good and you have a lot of users, and you know how to use that as an advantage, money is going to be a consequence, and no matter what, you're going to make money. So uh, I just think it's important to define a goal depending on each entrepreneur. But something that I'm sure about it is, I know what a failure is, and I think a failure is something that everybody has something that have in common. It's just one definition, which is you cannot continue. Your company cannot continue operating, and that's a reality. Like, that's the only way you can define failure, because if you don't have the means to keep going with your company,
Yeah.
you cannot achieve, I don't know, disruption or fame or money or users. Like, who cares? Like if your
Well,
company cannot operate, you cannot accomplish anything.
so I'll add a couple more ideas to that. One is your company doesn't want to operate with you, and that happens. Some people get kicked out of their own company, and it happens more often than you would might think, and it's unfortunate, but that can totally happen. The other is that um, you're miserable and you don't want to continue, and so you just walk away. And that's another thing I've seen. I've seen founder burnout. They just go, I just cannot work with my co-founders, my team, or this industry, and they have to leave. So those are two other kind of failures that happen, because sometimes the failure of a business is like you do have to fail fast in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, because one business idea might not make sense, so you need to be able to try rebranding it, move from products to services. So being flexible is one of the key things I've noticed in all successful businesses, is that the founders are able to move and pivot, and that might their original business idea, what I was going to say is like their successful business does never looks like the original business.
Yeah,
They've been
like
able to adapt.
I think 99% of the successful companies are like that.
Yeah.
Like you have to pivot. You have to pivot, and if you're not flexible, it's going to be really hard for you to make it.
And I think that's a key thing. There's a lot of um, so when you go to startup incubators and accelerators and you get advice from classical VC, everyone tells you got to have a really clear business plan and whatnot, and it's super important. The thing is that you have to demonstrate that you have an understanding of where you want to go, but that business plan is never how you're going to succeed. Because if it's too rigid, I mean, things are going to surprise you. And so this is actually one of the mistakes, is to think that you have to follow a plan, when really you just have to be able to try things out quickly and adapt to what the customers say, because you cannot predict everything. So one of the biggest mistakes is trying to predict everything. It's not going to happen. There's an old adage I like to use, which is no war, so no battle was won without a plan, but no battle was won according to plan, if that makes sense. You got to
No,
start off with a
absolutely.
plan,
It's like
and it's going to go
like
somewhere else.
it's like doing a building, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know a single building in the world that they have defined a construction schedule, and
Mhm.
then they have finished on time, or they have hit all the milestones. It never happens. But
No.
you need a plan, right? It'd be impossible to put together, like to
Yeah.
build something, if you don't have like a construction schedule. But
Yeah.
you need to know that you're gonna never gonna hit the milestones.
Exactly. So one of the mistakes I kind of took note of in preparation for this was lack of a vision or a guiding star. You do have to know very clearly where you want to go and the impact that you want to have, and need to be able to articulate it. And it is not just some BS exercise of creating a vision statement. The founder and founders, and ideally the whole team, has to share a common vision for what they're trying to achieve. So one of the mistakes is not having one. So when I see a business created where they're going, we're going to make the industry better, but without a clear idea of how or why. I mean, it's a fun exercise, but well, I don't know what your
No,
chances of
it's
success.
interesting, yeah, and it's exciting to hear someone saying that. But it's just something that great. Then when you have to do it, I don't know, it's a complete different story. And that's something that also leads to people being, I guess, over ambitious. For me, it's one of the work with many startups, and something that I've seen is that you become too ambitious. And it is okay that if you want to take the whole industry, fine, that's perfect. But you cannot think that you're going to, the first release of your product is going to be so successful that everybody will want to use it, and you're going to sell it to the whole industry. And so that leads to founders. We once worked with a startup that I'm not going to say the name for sure, but they work on their initial product for 2 years. They ran out of money. They never released a product. They went bankrupt. So they didn't even go to market. Like say, so it's just, for me, it was just, this is so stupid. It's like you invested 2 years of your life and you didn't even go to market. Like
Yeah.
you rather go to market real quick, like just
Yeah.
do something really small in 1 month, and then you see if you get traction, you can build on top of it. If not, who cares? You only lost 1 month, not 2 years.
Yeah. Well, again, 100%. That's what I said. You got to be able to fail fast. And you have to get to market because you do not know how people are going to respond to it. That said, related to that is when I say that the market will tell you and people will tell you, but you do have to have a basic understanding of what problem it is you're solving and why people are going to be buying your product. You really have to have that understanding. You can't BS yourself and think that, well, I got this great technology and they're just going to use it. But if you don't understand what problem you're solving, what pain point you're actually hitting,
No,
and I,
absolutely.
yeah,
No, I've met. That's something that for me is just incredible. In terms of, and I would love to do an analysis with real numbers, but in our industry, most of the entrepreneurs come from our industry, right? But there is a small percentage that come from other industries and they don't have a clue about our industry, right? Like they they don't know architects or engineers, and most of the people that come from other industries to ours are successful. That's my experience, and
really,
I do think because they get to our industry and they don't care so much about the industry or disruption, or they're not mad about, but they care more about what's the problem I need to solve and who's the person I will do it for. I don't
yeah.
care about fame, or I don't care about the industry. I just want to care about solving a problem. And us coming from the industry, sometimes you get involved into the how the industry is broken, and you end up falling in love more with the technology than the problem itself.
Well, I agree 100%. Like, and that's again one that's actually number one on my list is loving your technology. I have talked to too many people that fall in love with the technology they invent when technology is just a tool, and you have to be able to. Oh boy, there's a term. And I shouldn't say it. I don't want to go on record as saying it,
Just
but
say it,
you
just
have to be.
say it.
Oh no, but you have to be willing to part with your young ones. Anyway, because you cannot be overly attached to technology. Your customers don't care what technology it is. Is it making their lives better? That's all they care about. So being in love with your
True.
technology is one of the biggest. And I do find that some people in the industry and some people from the outside going, "We've got this great technology. You guys just need to use technology X." And it's like, whoa, adoption of solutions is something else that's really tricky. Um, that's a big mistake, is not understanding how and why people make the decisions they make when it comes to purchasing.
Well, and that's the case for me. The most important piece of a product is implementation. It's not development. And actually, I hear the phrase. I don't know exactly, but the best code is it's no code, right? Like
Yeah,
the least amount of code that you can put into your product, the better. Like, and I do see this like because we're speaking about startups, but with entrepreneurs, right? Which are guys creating products inside companies, like architects who code within companies, right?
mhm.
And design technology specialists, or the name you want to put to them. And for me, it's really common hear them saying like, "Oh, you better cool stuff all the time," but people then don't use it, or there's the problem again. It's like they're more concerned about having fun and doing really cool technology than the problem they are solving.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Um, yep. And understanding like the problem you're solving really has to do also with how people work. One of the other mistakes I see is that people think that all you need to do is they just need to change their client's behavior. And that's a really, really tricky path to go down. People don't change, at least not easily. If you want to go down that path, it's funny as I say this, I know examples, but I mean, for example, going from AutoCAD to Revit, that was really, really hard. If you read the history books, my God, Revit at the beginning, it was really hard. Now it's entrenched. Going to something else, again, that company, whoever does that, is going to have a lot of challenges ahead of them. But the point I really wanted to make was understanding like how they use the tools and expecting them to change. Like the people will not change. And I think that's actually a key thing for me going forward. It's like, how do you integrate with your existing workflows? And people are
No,
beating this into my head. I think it's
like
correct.
I think you brought up. I was going to say the iPhone, right? Like is an example that we all know of something new. But Revit, it's also a great example. It took them like more than 10 years to be profitable. More than 10 years, and the technology was amazing, and it was really needed, and more than 10 years. So you could even say they were lucky that were acquired by Autodesk, and they were lucky that it was successful, because it could have gone really wrong. And,
Yeah.
and that's companies, even if you have a great technology, the market might not be prepared for it. You might create something that, I don't know, AI models automatically, but if users are not ready for that disruption, you're not going to be successful, even if the technology is great, and even if it helps them. So it's not only about great technology, or it's about timing, right?
Yeah. Oh, hey, my old friend Luke jumped in and says, "Yeah, people don't want to change," and that's really hard. Yeah, I think it's a great point. Don't use revolutionary in your marketing. Yeah, don't talk about too much about disruption either. That's a red flag for a lot of people. Um,
Yeah.
and what's challenging related to that is that you'll see a lot of enthusiasm. If you show up with a disruptive product or something revolutionary, you can get a lot of interest and a lot of excitement from people who are dissatisfied with status quo. But then it comes time for your business to make money, and it means there has to be an exchange of money. And as my old friend Joel used to say, people you listen to people with with their wallet, and that's when they're going to make some new decisions. And I do this now when I talk to people. I listen to what they have to tell me, and in the end I say, would you pay for this, or what is it that you would use your money for? And then sometimes it's a very different answer. Like what they're willing to pay for today is
No, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
even
no,
great.
absolutely, and that also I feel applies. Again, I'm not gonna say names, but like companies who have tried to, for example, automate and use AI to provide construction schedules automatically, and but then you're trying to take people using paper and big Primavera schedules into using just AI, and it's not working. And the only thing they want is just a way to at least move, a task in Primavera, and allow the other task to move automatically. Or like I feel sometimes entrepreneurs try to do things really complex, and some of the needs in our industry are really basic. And you need to be afraid of just do something basic, because maybe the value you're providing by doing something basic is much more than a really fancy AI thing.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think what if I ever hear our product is uses AI to do X already, that's not even stated in the right context, which is, well, that's not a problem. A problem is that people don't have enough AI. I mean, that's not a business problem.
AI
And,
is just
and
another tool. It's just stupid when you're just
yeah,
trying to
and
throw
it's
AI to it. It's like maybe it's a solution, but like I mean, in general, it's just another tool. It's like, hey, we're gonna use hammers for everything. It's like, no, hammers are for nails, not you know.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
My next software is going to be called Bag of Hammers. Yeah, again, Luke says you have to show people how it fits in their process, not convince them to change their process. And I think that's a key part of the sales process and the storytelling and the marketing. But the other part is actually spending that time learning their process, which is really surprisingly complex. I was going to say something to you earlier. You said that a lot of success you see is from outsiders, but I also see a lot of success from people from within who really understand the
true.
pain points and the workflows. Because me, I got years of programming experience, but I still don't know what it's like for architects sitting in front of a computer, doing whatever they do day in, day out. So their processes are still a black box to me, which is why people keep seeing me at hackathons. They're like, "Why do you keep showing up at these things?" I'm like, "I'm trying to learn what your pain points are and how you work." So understanding the process and making a big investment in that is really important. Again, whether that's from me trying to educate myself or partnering with people like you who have a more deeper understanding.
No, but like even like I think that's also a misconception. Like for example, I'm an architect, right? And it would be a huge mistake if I create an app for architects and I design it based on my experience. I think it's a huge mistake because
No.
even yeah, because my experience is pretty limited to one. I don't know how many companies, three, four, five companies, and
Yeah.
that might not be representative of the market, or the market might change. Or I feel it's knowing the industry is a double-edged sword, because
Yeah.
in the end, even if you know the market really well, you need to sit down with 100 architects. If you're going to build a tool for architects, you need to sit down with 100 architects and make sure that most of them are saying, yes, I want it, I will pay for it, and I desperately need it. No, it's like, oh, it's nice to have. No, I desperately need this. I need it in this specific way.
Yeah. I mean, that's if you're going at a certain scale. It's the big upfront design and doing all of that market research. And I agree with it in principle. But then if you're a very small, lean startup, doing something that you know solves a problem for you and you can at least extrapolate it to a number of other people, that can be a way to bootstrap. Now, my perspective on this is a little bit skewed. I'm incredibly focused on how do you bootstrap businesses. I don't want to, like, personally, I only want venture capital once I've gotten to a certain point that I've actually proved the viability of a business to myself. And that's when I'm interested in venture capital, which is actually the reverse of a lot of people. So when you're looking at bootstrapping, you have to do what you kind of dismissed, which is solve a problem, but do it quickly. You know what we said earlier, you have to get out there as fast as possible and validate your idea. I believe that validating working products and something that people could buy today is better than spending too much time validating an idea, unless you've got 20 million or more seed funding, which not everybody has.
No, but small hiccup. Small hiccup. But uh,
Welcome back.
going back to the idea of what you were saying um, about money, and if people has 20 million, or like, even then, even if you have $20 million, right? Like, we have seen the Kateras, the WeWorks, that and they had more than $20 million,
Yeah.
and they failed. Like, I don't even if you have a lot of money, you can burn money real quick, and also you're expected to burn money real quick when you get that amount of money. So it's
Getting money at the wrong time and getting the wrong amount of money is actually one of the biggest mistakes. Because you cannot, you have to know for yourself as a founder, when is the right time to get the money and when do you grow. Because you're right, what happens is there's a pressure and all of a sudden a clock that's ticking down. And I believe more that you have to build your team at the right pace of, I have the right people, rather than somebody saying, okay, now within 2 weeks you have to hire all these people. Well, you're going to hire a mess.
Yeah, and I do feel that there are certain times when you need to grow real quick, but it's
Yeah.
not at the beginning. Like, at the beginning, you need to validate and you need to get users.
Yep.
Like, if you
Users,
need the
users,
money to
users.
scale, like, hey, you know what? I have proven this, and I need more hands because my users are demanding this, and I need more sales to sell this because people just don't know about us, but they need us. Sure, get all the money you can, and
Yeah.
then grow real quick.
Yeah.
But until then, for me personally, it's a disadvantage getting money, because you have an extra pressure that you don't need, and then the sooner you start getting money, the sooner you're gonna lose control of your company. So, and you're in a different power position to request money, right? If you already have customers and you already have traction, then if you go and ask for money, they're gonna be desperate to give you the money. But then if you go without traction, it's much harder, to negotiate that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's money. It's one of the biggest mistakes. When to ask. Also, it's hard. It's hard to timing. I feel it's one of the hardest things, being an entrepreneur. When to like hire people, when to ask for money, when to fire people, and no,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's
I
something
agree.
people
Yeah.
don't want to speak about. And you need to fire people, because not because you're mean, or because you might not have money, or because those people might not be fit for the company. It's a reality.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and and you need to know when to fire someone. We were speaking with the CEO of Monograph once, and something that we agree was that, for example, firing it's something that you always do it late. When you fire someone, it's like, oh, I should have fired this guy like 8 months ago, or like I should have asked for money, or like every decision when you realize you have to do it, it's already late. It's just
Mhm.
insane.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's knowing that. I mean, I think it's a human tendency. We're not going to let go of people, and I think that there's something to be said about your overall culture if you are not firing people, and that you are committing to each individual that you bring in. Ideally, it says, "Hey, as a leader, I have a plan. I'm hiring at the right moment." But this means being very careful about when you hire somebody, who you hire, and that it is the right fit for you. And again, like I said, that's one of the challenges with hiring too quickly and not having really good processes in place. People are the backbone of your business. Whether or not you recognize that, it's very, very important that you build. And I'm not saying there's one culture or another that's correct. There are different ways to organize and run your company. But what's really important is that everyone is kind of that fits into that culture, and is aware of it and is on board with it. When you have a split in culture, I see a lot of problems there. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think culture is a very, very important thing to get done in your startup, and to not think as a founder that it's all about you and your idea. Again, this is a way to get kicked out. It's a way to miss opportunities and to not be successful. When you are generous with sharing it with your team, the success, man, you're it's going to go gangbusters. I'm going to give you an example. So I'm talking positive here. I'm talking about Speckle. I think the way that they are growing, and it's a shared team experience. There is no, oh, this is me, I invented all of this. No, there's very little ego. No, there's no ego there. There is just people. And what happened is I saw their employees all promoting the company in a way that I wish I could see in other startups. Because sometimes what happens, you have a lack of engagement from the cream. You just have one founder blasting how great they are, and then there's crickets across the board. And that's really hard for them to grow. But when you see a company like Speckle, where everybody was in the company, was proud of it and announcing it and being part of it, that energy is contagious. And the users pick up on it. And then users become promoters.
True. No, no, absolutely. I think the environment and the culture are extremely important. But I also do feel that something that it might not seem important, but for me it is, which is outsourcing. For me, it's great, because you're not gonna have, if you think you're gonna have the whole knowledge and you can do the whole thing, and you have the right people to do everything in your company, you're mistaken. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way you have all the different resources. And if you're trying to hire all the people you need for every little thing you need to do, you're going to waste a lot of money. And
No,
then you
no.
are going to ruin the culture. So and I do it. Like, I do it, and I promote that other people do it. Is like, hey, if you want to develop, like, I don't know, something that you don't know about, just hire, and it's not critical to your company. Just hire another company to do it, or another freelancer to do it, instead of you doing it. It's gonna be faster, cheaper, and better quality.
I
And
agree.
I don't know, people sometimes are reluctant because they think like nobody's gonna do it better than us. That's so stupid. Yeah, there are
I
certain
know.
things that you want to keep in house, right? But there are a lot of things that nobody cares if you do it outside the company.
Well, there's a couple of things where the nature of an entrepreneur tends to cut both ways, right? It tends to be advantageous and disadvantageous. An entrepreneur ideally has to be quite flexible and able to do multiple things. And they have a vision on how everything should go, but that tends to make them more controlling, and it's hard for them to let go. It always is going to be a bit that way. But I agree with you. I think that outsourcing is extremely smart because you didn't make the overcommitment of hiring somebody too quickly, or having that like, oh my gosh, now I've got this salary to maintain, and if my sales dip or I try to pivot, I'm in rough shape. So good planning goes hand in hand with outsourcing some of your work. Now, outsourcing can be different ways, but can also be partnerships with businesses, sharing your success with other businesses. This was a mistake I saw somebody make before, which was like, we're going to do it all, and so all of the wealth will come to us, and we cannot partner with them because they're going to steal it from us. And when you have more of a spirit of not just of abundance, saying, look, there's lots of wealth to go around, and if we together we make something twice as good, there's twice as much money, just twice as much success. And I'm finding more and more that partnering with businesses and people who have like complementary skill sets to me, it works great. It's very rewarding. And I mean, hey, I start enjoying what I'm doing a lot more, and I can focus on what I do. Because now I can say no to certain work. Like, oh no, I'm not good. Somebody asked me the other day, do you want to join a team? Nope, not employable.
Nope.
Anymore.
Well, and changing gears a little bit, something that might see critical, but it sometimes is the fact that sometimes you do over engineering or not enough engineering, and
It's true.
both of them can be dangerous. The only thing that I consider is like, if you are not doing your best job of, like, you're doing stuff the best you can at the beginning, and you're not thinking that much, it's not that big of a deal at the beginning, but later on it's going to be a problem. But I think if you do over engineering at the beginning, it's a big problem. Yeah, you might make things maybe easier in the future, but it's gonna make you slow, and it is gonna make you make mistakes, and even it's gonna affect the business, because when you do over engineering at the beginning, then if you want to pivot, you will look at your systems, and it's like, I invested so much time on developing this, and it's so complex that this cannot be adapted to anything else, and then you're in deep trouble. Because how do you explain to your engineering team that they need to start from scratch, and they will not want to do it? And so I feel it's really important to take that into consideration at the beginning.
Yeah, I think over engineering is the thing that I've seen kill companies, because they just simply they weren't able to get to market quick enough. Again, I talked about earlier about falling in love with your technology. You become really attached to it, and you can't pivot, as you said. You're not fast enough to change. Then under engineering, well, like, let's say you've got too many customers, and your system all of a sudden is starting to struggle because you have too many customers. Well, that's not a problem. That's what they call a good problem to have. So yeah, then you invest and adjust to it. The thing is that it's very tough for software engineers to understand what enough level of engineering is. Somebody once said, this was one of the dev managers for Softimage, and he used to say that if you're not at least a little bit ashamed of what you've released, then you waited too long to release. I thought that was a fascinating way of looking at it.
Well, no, and I agree. Like, a good example is Dropbox. Dropbox, when they released, there was almost no UI. It was awful. The only thing you could do is just one box and upload files. That was it. You didn't even have folders. It was just big chunk of stuff that you couldn't even see it in your computer. It's like you have to go to a website, and so it was just ugly. And I think it took them a month or something to develop it. So I feel that's the way. Unless you're, for sure, if we're only speaking about virtual startups, about software, but for sure if you're putting together, I don't know, a new cement, or it's going to be a complete different history, right? Because it's going to take you years and whatever. But for software, you need to fail fast.
Yeah, you do. Well, it's interesting you mentioned about how different businesses are different, but one of the things that we mentioned earlier prior to coming live was that there seems to be no recipe, though. Every business breaks the rules and breaks the template. And when I only recently started learning a little bit about Y Combinator and whatever, and they try to apply these formulas to things, and I think I understand the desire to do that, especially for a venture capital firm to want to have repeatable success and to try. But I think the reality is that it comes down to the people, what they're passionate about, what's going to get them through it. You know, really smart. I think investors say they invest in the people, not in the tech. So coming back to what I wanted to say was every company is very, very different, and they are going to change the rules. So you have to basically be able to break them and mold them to yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're speaking about, I guess, good practices that might improve your odds of being successful, but it's not going to be guaranteed that you're going to be successful if you follow certain rules. No, absolutely not. And the, there are so many startups that have done stuff in, like, I don't know if you there is a book, I have it here. It's Disrupted by Dan Lyons. It's an amazing book because the guys, I don't know if you've read it, but it's about a guy who's thinking his 60s or 70s. He's a journalist that started working at HubSpot when HubSpot was a much more smaller company, right? And the practices that he mentions, it's just insane. It's like they didn't even know what product they were going to build. There were no buyer personas. Like like even when they had to fire someone, they didn't say they were firing someone. It was that they 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 graduated from the HubSpot school. That's the way, and they did throw a party. It's just like it's so weird, like the culture was weird, and everything that the guy explains there, and you would think it was a recipe for disaster. And now you see the company, and at least they're successful in terms of users and money, and so even if you don't follow the rules, sometimes you are successful anyway. And even if you
Yeah,
follow those rules, you might fail anyway.
yeah. But it tends not to be an entire accident. When you look at how they succeed, there is this notion of flexibility, pivoting, willing to take risks. Coming back to the over engineering, one of the things I think is a big mistake is to say, look, well, I worked at a big company and we did things this way. And I was like, well, big companies are more about risk management. Small companies are about being able to pivot and address the needs quickly. So you don't want to take the disadvantages of a big company and apply them to a small company. You've got to play to your strengths, and that has to do with the business structure as well as your individual strengths as well. You got to play to your strengths. I mean, you're out there, you got to kind of maximize what your ROI is as a human being. What are you best at? Do that. If you try to do something you're not very good at and you're not really passionate about,
Oh, absolutely.
not
It's
maybe.
something that you need to have. It needs to be fueled by passion and not by like, hey, I just want to make more money. I don't think that would work. But the point you mentioned about I used to work on a big company and they do it this way, especially in our industry. It's like the big companies represent one or the less percent of the whole industry in terms of numbers of companies. So it's not that many if you think about it in the AC. Like the big ones are not that many, and also you need to have in mind, and I think Peter Thiel said it once. It's like the tale of Moby Dick, right? It's a big white whale, and you might end up wasting your whole life trying to chase it because like big companies it's hard to sell to big companies, and yeah, you might get one and you get a lot of money, but it's so hard that you might be better off with the smaller ones. So that's also important to know. Is like you might have a great product, But then if you only can sell it to big companies, and it's something hard, for example, data integration to big companies,
Mm.
that's a pain in the ass. Go for it and try to convince a big company to standardize the data in a way, and open their database to connect to your platform, and
Yeah.
good
But
luck with it.
But it comes back to first principles that we were discussing before. It's understanding your customer, what their pain points are. Oh, also how they make their purchasing decisions, like what they're going to use to evaluate whether or not they can use a product or purchase it. And understanding that deeply is key. So whether you're going after a big business, whether you're going after small business, whether you're going after individual users, hobbyists, casual users, whatever you're going at, you really have to understand uh, the client that you're selling to. I think that's the key thing. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make, is they don't fully understand the client. A classic example is somebody who says, "Oh, I'm going to sell to developers, but we're not going to put any documentation online. We're not going to give you a demo that you can try. You have to come to us and deal with a salesperson." And I don't think there's any software developer out there who wants to get on a call and is going to voluntarily sign up to get on a demo. And so that part just drives me bonkers. If you're selling to developers, you have to understand how developers think. And I mean, I'm sorry, that just drove me
Not
bonkers.
only
It's like,
developers, like in general, people don't like, it's like when you're going and try to buy, I don't know, shirt, or you don't want to speak to anybody. You just want to
no, they
go and buy
don't.
a shirt. You want to try it out and buy it. Like you, and typically that's
Can you,
how you want to do it. And
can you imagine walking into a store in a mall and everything is in boxes? And you say, what do you sell? There's like, we'll show you, but you're gonna have to schedule a meeting with me via my Calendly. Oh, good luck with that business model. You've
no,
got to
and then
show
that's,
people and you've got to attract them.
I need to give it to like Autodesk in that specific case. I think they did an amazing job, because they not even you can try their tools, and also they deliberately allow people to use it for free, legally or illegally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's it. For me, that's a brilliant
mhm,
idea. It's like
yeah,
you're allowing everybody to use it. Yeah, for sure. You're going to sue them after a
yeah.
couple of years if you see that they're making money with it. But anyway, you get to be popular and everybody's using your tools, and you get that.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's really key. And it would remind me of something that actually Luku commented here on the stream a couple something. I'm paraphrasing him, but what I learned was that people make their decisions based on their emotions. And so you do have to talk to their emotions, and you have to tell them, you have to show them a compelling story. If you're just like, Matt, it's great, here's why. Well, have you spoke to them? Have you shown them how it's going to do it? And this is what you realize when I use the shopping mall analogy, is it speaks to our emotions. You go into a store, it makes you feel a certain way. It makes you feel, oh, this it's hip, it's cool, I want to buy that, or this makes me feel, it's going to make me feel sexy or professional or whatever.
Yeah, and you're not even thinking that. I completely agree about that, and it's the way it makes you feel. It's not even about the shirt. Is when are you gonna use the shirt? Where? When? How are you gonna feel with that shirt? Are you gonna go to a club? You're gonna get a
Yeah.
nice lady, whatever. Like it's about the experience that the product is giving you, and the same applies to a product. It's not about like it just saves time. Yeah, but that guy wants to feel smart. That guy
Mhm.
wants to, like, maybe it's about, I don't know, drafting, for example. Like nobody wants to do drafting. Architects want to do design. So if you do something that allows architects not do drafting anymore and just concentrate on doing beautiful buildings, that's golden, man. That's golden, because you make those guys dream. But
Yeah.
and you have to say it like that. It's like I'm gonna make your dream come true.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's a really good point. I mean, it comes down to it. It's like, we're complex beings, and the decision making process we make for purchases is complex. It's based on our feelings, and as well as, all these super boring complicated things like, your IT policies, and your resistance to use new things, or if your boss makes you have to fill out paperwork, and frankly you're just not going to do it because, never underestimate how lazy people are. I
We're
mean,
all lazy. Yeah.
we are incredibly lazy. And it's really funny because people are just like, sometimes that was another mistake I've seen. All you need to do is this and this and this. And I'm like, and you lost your cell. And they don't understand why. But they're like, but if you use this and this, you'll have all these wonderful things. I'm like, people are lazy. Do it for them. Do it for them, or really, really motivate them. Like in order for them to do a little bit of work on their side, the user, they have to be so motivated. But even then, they may say they're excited and they still don't try your product. So I'll tell you, man, we all know how we really evaluate stuff. We don't want to admit it to ourselves when we're designing a product, but when we try things, it is pretty brutal. Like, we're like, one click, oh, I didn't like that page, gone. Or an app that's too complicated, it just goes in the garbage.
Yeah, 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 and the landscape is getting more and more competitive. So you need to get better. But
Mhm.
I think we're getting out of time, and
Yeah,
I don't want to get off the rails here. But next week we're gonna be speaking about an
no, two
interesting
weeks from now, I
topic.
believe.
2 weeks from
With
now, sorry, or 3 weeks. Three
actually
weeks
3
from
weeks is the
now. 3 weeks
24th.
from now.
Yes, sir.
True. So it's we're gonna be speaking about. You want to say it or?
Yes, I will say it. We are going to talk about the Autodesk monopoly.
And
How is
it's
it going to
not,
get
yeah,
broken?
correct. If it's gonna get broken and how.
No, it's always a question of when. All empires fall.
True,
Learn from
true, true.
history.
Touche, touche, touche. Okay, so we're gonna put dates into the end of the
Dates.
Autodesk
Yeah, well, I
Monopoly.
have no idea when. Just know
It's like
it's
it's gonna be a precise day.
Oh, could you imagine?
I don't think it's gonna be that way, but
We should do some
we can
research,
try.
ask a few people we know. I know a couple of people who might have a couple of dates for us. So,
Yeah, yeah, we can. But all right, everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. It was really fun, and we'll be
and
seeing you in 3 weeks.
all right then. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Appreciate
bye
it. Take
bye.
care. Bye bye.